It is a very good morning to you all, and welcome to the Breakfast Club right here on Asake. My name is Fungai Mawada. So this week we have introduced a new segment on the Breakfast Club where we talk about some of the hard-hitting topics that were being talked about, whether on social media, whether in the newspapers, and by individuals. And to help me dissect some of those stories, I do have a guest in studio. Today we are talking about the by-elections in Bulilima, which will be taking place this Saturday on the 3rd of September 2022, where 3 vacancies are up for grabs. And as you know, some parties participating in those by-elections are ZAPU, CCC, as well as ZANU-PF. And of course, our correspondents right here at site will be on the ground giving us up-to-date results on those elections. We are also going to be talking about the Harare and Bulawayo city councils as to why residents are not actively participating within those areas. We've seen a lot of city councillors coming forth with different correspondence for residents, and residents simply are not taking part. So we're going to dissect that as well. And then, of course, we are going to talk about how the president of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, has blasted xenophobia, saying that is a no-go area, especially in line with recent comments by the MEC in Limpopo about the presence of Zimbabweans in that area. But to help me talk about this more, I am joined by a media consultant as well as a correspondent from the Voice of America, Annahstacia Ndlovu. Annahstacia, good morning and welcome to the Breakfast Club.
Thank you. Good morning.
All right, so to begin with, like I mentioned at the beginning, Uti, the by-elections are set for this weekend. Ebulilima, where there are 3 vacancies so far which have been left. One person passed away, another person, 2 others resigned, and another person went overseas. So what is the feeling on the ground in terms of AMA by-elections Ebulilima so far, according to what you have seen?
As far as everything is concerned, the community in Bulilima so far is complaining about threats that they are getting from the people that they know who are members of the ruling party. And so far, no one has been arrested for harassing or intimidating villagers. They are also threatening the candidates. That is the report that we got. And this is not well with us, the media, and the Zimbabweans as a whole. You remember there was violence last week in Gokwe where there were by-elections. And if this goes uncontested or challenged, it will create problems in the forthcoming elections. Remember, we are already preparing for 2023 harmonized elections. And if this is happening, I feel it is setting a wrong precedent because it will intimidate the voters, the electorate. And the political parties, I feel they must sit down, stop this intimidation, and let the people go and vote peacefully.
Is the intimidation, though, targeted towards the electorates or to the participants, rather the representatives of the different political parties in those particular areas?
So far, the reports that we got is that the Triple C supporters and candidates have been receiving threats from the ruling party members. And this is not the first time to happen in Zimbabwe. It has always been happening, but we're not looking forward to it repeating itself in these by-elections. And we all know that the ruling party usually uses by-elections to test the ground. And this was also once said by the former Vice President Kembo Mohati at Nkulumane, the last rally that they held at Nkulumane grounds. He was clear that it is a litmus test for them so that they go and prepare for 2023. So if there is violence already taking place in some parts of the country and intimidation, I feel it's not right.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, as journalists, remember there are journalists who were harassed in Gokwe, close to more than 3 journalists. I feel as a journalist, it's not right. They are infringing our rights as media, as journalists, and the government has to make sure that no one is harassed. The political parties that are taking part, they must tell their supporters to desist from violence and harassment of journalists.
All right. So I do hear you, and I know that a lot of people were debating about these issues on social media in terms of the intimidation claims, and a lot of people were saying that some of these things are just hearsay, that some political parties, for example, the opposition political parties, are making up these claims so that there's like an international reaction towards these by-elections and the likes, and that, it's just a precedence for them to just try and attempt and make the ruling party look bad. Could that be a possibility as well?
Not true. We all know that ZANU-PF is a violent political party. It's unfortunate that at some point the opposition is also joined in that frenzy, whereby they are saying they are retaliating. You remember currently Job Sikala is in prison because of the violence that took place in Harare. And last week we saw it happening again in Midlands, people getting injured. And most of the people were complaining they were wearing triple C regalia. We saw people speaking out that yes, we've been assaulted, and the police are not speaking out against that. No one has been arrested so far concerning the Gokwe Midlands crisis. So as a nation, if the police have not arrested anyone, what report are they sending out? And they already, international community is already observing preparations for the 2023 elections. It's starting now. So when they give a report and say there was violence, harassment, the elections are not free and fair, are we going to dispute that? We are not, because we are witnessing that happening.
Okay, very interesting. And in line, of course, with ZEC as well, I'm sure you've been following some of their updates as well, how they've been talking about the voters' role and how they've been educating people who will be monitoring the elections. How do you feel about the role of ZEC so far in terms of the by-elections in Bulilima?
The ZEC has played its role, but the usual complaint that we receive from the political parties and the voters is that the committees that are there at ZEC, they are the ones that are creating all these challenges that are raised by the political parties. I'm not a politician, I'm a journalist. But those are the reports that they are saying that it has been militarized and the appointment of most of the officials is clandestine. It's not clear to the public.
Okay, in line with that, and I know, how people were invited to come forth for those interviews at ZEC and the likes, and people went through a whole interview process. And for someone who is on the ground, I mean, like, it was really clear if you wanted a position, you'd come, you'd do your interview, and then you'd get the job. So where is it not clear exactly when it comes to people from the outside looking in?
We all know that the system that we live under in Zimbabwe, it's the Second Republic that is in control. And they've always said that they will never remove themselves from power through these reforms that everyone is calling out for. There are stipulated reforms that everyone has raised, but the current government has refused to implement those reforms, and they are still standing. Free and fair elections, the processes must be very clear to everyone. And you noted that the prizes, the charges that ZEC announced, honestly, if someone decides to become a presidential candidate, they are told to raise 20,000. And at the same time, they are not accepting or allowing anyone to receive foreign funding. And they look at the current economic situation in the country. How can you raise such amounts?
Okay, I'll play devil's advocate in this regard. Isn't it for the best in that regard that we don't have 20 candidates trying to run for president at the end of the day?
Where is democracy?
Hmm.
It's stifling democracy. You can't ask for who gets paid that much. Look at the current salaries that are there. Look at the economic challenges. Look at the inflation. Look at the prices, they are going up every day. So does it mean that ZEC must also increase their charges? They must give us the cost outline on how did they reach 20,000? How did they reach 20,000?
That would absolutely be interesting to see from ZEC as to how they reached those figures. And then moving on to another topic, obviously Harare and Bulawayo city councils have been having public consultations, whether in terms of budgets, talking about health and the likes. What is the importance behind public consultations, and why is it important for citizens to be active participants in these consultations as well?
We all know that the councils belong to the people, and the staff that is employed by the city council works for the city. So for people not to attend those meetings, it means there are reasons. But so far, there is a challenge within. I'll talk about the Bulawayo City Council where I live. In most cases, people go to those consultations, like the budget consultations, but they feel that their views are not reflective at the end of the day in the budget that the city council draws up. To an extent that currently the Bulawayo City Council was granted powers by the government to start charging in forex. Who gets paid in forex in Zimbabwe, in foreign currency? Who is earning that foreign currency? How much is everyone earning that foreign currency? Look at the unemployment rate in Bulawayo. Bulawayo used to be the
industrial hub.
Yes, the industrial hub. But it changed the early 2000s. Look, go around the industry. They are not working. People are not working. Industry is closed. And those who are selling, they have their goods confiscated because they are selling from undesignated areas. Look at Egodini Mall. It's still not yet complete. So where are the vendors trading from? So arresting vendors when you know that you have no proper places. Yes, even those that are there, they are not enough for everyone. So there is a challenge in Bulawayo. Looking at the parking, how much do I earn for me to pay $1 just an hour to park in the city? Who is benefiting? Who is the owner of the company? How did they reach at charging a $1?
All right. I like how you bring the issue of the parking issue and how it's really not affordable for the ordinary person who does not even earn in United States dollars. But in light of that, and what going back to the issue of public consultations, there were consultations made and tenders which were released to the public if anyone wanted to do the tender in terms of the parking. And like you said, the whole budget process as well, which people have been called for these budget reviews and the likes, but people simply do not go. Why are the residents not going for these meetings? And then we complain at the end of the day when decisions are made on our behalf. Why are residents simply not actively taking part in these consultations? And I know a lot of people have been complaining on social media, talking about how Bulawayo used to be the cleanest city around. But then if we go through the city now, it's a horrendous mess. And we seem to complain, and when decisions are made, we then say, why was this decision made? So why aren't people taking part in these consultations in the first place?
When the government introduced the forex payment, did they consult the citizens? They did not consult the citizens. So the citizens will also, when they are invited for these meetings, they will not turn up. On the other hand, people are now self-employed. They would rather go and work or sell their wares. By the time when the meetings are called, they will not attend. Last time I remember, Bulawayo City Council introduced the WhatsApp meeting. Who affords data? it's expensive. And when you look at the issue of Bulawayo being unclean, who is cleaning the city? When did you last see a Bulawayo City Council worker pushing the bin trolley, cleaning the city? Bulawayo City Council has no cleaners so far. They are not enough to meet the demands that are there. It's said that people are not attending these consultative meetings, but we all know that people are complaining that even if they are consulted, their input is not included. Even if it's included, it's insignificant.
Very interesting. And just to deflect there, do you feel as though the councillors who are elected by the residents in general are doing their job, are representative of the people's feelings and emotions when it comes to these council meetings?
We all know that Bulawayo has got a challenge, a political challenge. The councillors that are there were not like from the grassroots. They are appointed by their political parties. We now have a problem with Kambarani, who wants to retain his seat as a deputy mayor. And I think the courts must clarify. Yes, they made a ruling, but they must clarify on the grounds of Kambarani going back as who, as a councillor, not as a deputy mayor. Because when he came in, he has been out of office. So did it mean that the council business had to stop? They had to appoint someone,
and they did,
to run the council business. So he's back. He must first of all follow the procedures, not these squabbles that we are hearing that is interrupting meetings. Yes, his political party is not clear as well. And Bulawayo is not happy. Look at the number of councillors who were voted in. Most of them is like they were not coming from Bulawayo. We've got councillors who come in and swear using the language that everyone is not happy with. And at the end of the day, it creates a conflict. And it also leads to residents not willing to take part in council business, even if it's affecting them. So at the end of the day, the political parties are to blame in the current crisis. And the residents too are to blame for not standing up. And it's unfortunate that in Zimbabwe you cannot demonstrate against anyone anyhow. It depends. Do you have support or no support to stand up against certain individuals or certain challenges that you are faced with?
Okay, very interesting. And then we move on to some good news, I guess, for the region and for Zimbabwe as well. The commissioning, the official commissioning of the Beitbridge border post. What does this mean for the country and for the region as well?
It means good business. We are happy that there is such great development that has delayed. Yes, it's good, but we all know that as a region, as Matabeleland region, we are not happy with the current setup at the Beitbridge border post. The earnings that are received at the Beitbridge border post, they first go to Harare before coming to develop Matabeleland region. Beitbridge border post is making a lot of money, but it is not returned to the citizens. People were also complaining at some point that the people were manning even the gates at the border post. They are not from the area. So if there is new development, and at least if a certain percentage of locals benefit, we'll be happy. We are happy that they've renovated built the new offices at the border. But look at the roads. The road from Beitbridge to Bulawayo to Vic Falls to another border post is in bad shape. So far, I can say the only better road is the one from Plumtree to Bulawayo, because there was some sort of development that was made. So if the government can plow back the monies that are earned at the Beitbridge border post and make sure they work on the roads, on the infrastructure, so that we gain more revenue. But so far, as a region, we are not happy.
Okay.
Because the people who are manning those places, they are from outside Matebele land.
But are they not employees of the government of Zimbabwe or of Zimra as well? How do we then base it on
They are
being from
employees.
that
They are
particular region?
employees, but they are not from Matebele land. 99% of employees at the border posts, they are not from this region. And at least if they can maybe offer at least maybe 20 or 30% or 50%, make it mandatory. Let it be regulated and constitutionalized that at least 50% of the people that work at the, because Matebeleland has more border posts than any other part of the country.
It really does.
Yeah, so the revenue that is generated, it's millions. But we are not seeing our people benefiting. What are we benefiting from Beitbridge? Only to cross, come and go. But we are not employed to work there. At least 50% of people must be from Matebeleland, at least so that we benefit.
It would be very interesting to know what the criteria is for manning those particular border posts. Very important point that you highlight there. And then, of course, we move on into the region. I know that we've been following social media as well as I have, and there was the video by the MEC of Ulimpopo where she was literally shouting at a patient in a hospital bed, telling her to go back to Zimbabwe and the likes. And then the president of South Africa himself, Cyril Ramaphosa, then issued a statement talking about how there's no need for xenophobia in the region, how we're all Africans, we should be united. And I know that as of yesterday, I saw the video today, she then had another video again where she's talking to another patient, telling her that her president, the patient, referring to the president of Zimbabwe, should actually pay for her bill. Like, she's been on a tyrant about that. How do you feel about this whole situation?
Okay. As a Zimbabwean, I accept that our government has failed to take care of its citizens. If the government was taking care of its citizens, no one would be crossing Limpopo to go and seek medical attention in South Africa. We have Zimbabweans leaving Zimbabwe to go and seek medical attention in South Africa. It's because ours is not in good shape. I would be happy if our government stand up and rebuild the medical department or the hospitals, provide all the requirements. And it's not starting from us going to seek medical attention in South Africa. It's starting from the people who are manning those hospitals. Are they well paid? Is everything provided that they want? Are the medical supplies provided? Not at all. We've got challenges. So people who leave Zimbabwe go and seek medical attention in South Africa. And it did not start yesterday.
No.
It's decades and decades. People leaving Zimbabwe to seek medical attention in South Africa. The only challenge is that the MEC is saying all those things at the wrong platforms. I feel our governments have to sit down and talk. Yes, xenophobia is no good. Currently, there is this Dudula thing. And imagine, having this Dudula thing, the permits for most of the Zimbabweans are expiring by December, and people have been called on to renew their permits. And I remember before these permits, Zimbabweans used to live in South Africa, officially and unofficially, illegally or legally. So it means we are going back to that time when Zimbabweans were living in South Africa illegally. Totally. So I feel that the two governments have to sit down and talk over this issue. We remember that prior to all these challenges and for Zimbabweans to have these permits, there are officials, especially from the ZIPRA party, ZAPO, who used to go and negotiate for the Zimbabweans who are living in South Africa. And it did not start today. There are those who took part in the liberation struggle. When there were disturbances, like grounded disturbances and differences between ZIPRA and ZANDLA, most of the commanders left. They are residents in South Africa and Botswana. Our governments know that. They've even attained their citizens of those nations. So I feel for our government, for Zimbabwe and South Africa, they have to sit down and come up with a plan to renew the permits for those who are living in South Africa. There is a reason no one would just leave his or her own country to go and suffer in another country.
Fun. That's very true. But in light of those issues that the MEC has highlighted in South Africa, and Zimbabweans actually putting a strain on the economy of South Africa, you talk, of course, about the documented people that we know, which is over 170,000 plus, whose permits are expiring this December. But what of the undocumented? Because we all know that if you are from the southern region of Zimbabwe, there are a lot of Zimbabweans who are in South Africa, who are undocumented, who live and cross between South Africa and Zimbabwe. Like, it's normal, but it's not a normal human setup. Are we not draining South Africa economically? Are we not draining their health systems? Are we not draining literally the country?
We have been draining South Africa. But South Africa is also benefited from cheap labor from Zimbabweans, from foreigners. And why I target Zimbabweans as if they are the only citizens who are there illegally or legally. And South Africa must also remember that when they were fighting for their liberation, they used to utilize our resources. It was manpower, whatever that they benefited. At least they must give us some chance to rebuild our broken nation.
But are we building our broken nation, or people are just going there because they're like, I am tired of Zimbabwe and no water, no electricity, no health, nothing, no life. Let me just go Egoli and leave Zimbabwe on its own. Because even if you think about it, how many Zimbabweans are actually thinking of even coming home to register to vote for next year's elections, where we supposedly want change at the end of the day?
Historically, the boundaries were created by
the colonialists.
So you find it very difficult to say, I'm a foreigner in South Africa. But they are Zulus, they are Xhosas.
Their roots are in South Africa.
Their roots are in South Africa. It might not be clear, or it's a political challenge that we are facing. Historically, there is Wenela. Our forefathers used to go and work in South Africa and come back. But if people have decided to legalize their stay in South Africa, let it be respected. South Africa has got its own politics. They must not start blaming Zimbabweans as if we created the problems. Yes, we are draining their resources. We accept that. It's because they have, and currently we don't have. Look at the Zambian situation. We used to think Zambia will be what it is today.
Oh, yes, best performing currency right now.
I remember Zimbabweans laughing at Zambians. But today, can we laugh at them?
No.
So the challenge, that's what I'm saying, we will rebuild our Zimbabwe. But I feel the two governments have to sit down and talk. Because there are relations between the two countries that no one can run away from. Currently, there was Mrs. Zulu who was being installed. Everyone went across Africa. So then you start telling me that I'm a foreigner. Yes, I'm a foreigner due to boundaries. Malema usually raises such issues that we are brothers. Unfortunately, some people are staying in South Africa illegally. It's because in Zimbabwe we also have got our own challenges. The issue of documentation is a big challenge. You remember that most of the people were affected by Kukura. They are not documented, most of them. And those people, when they realized that there is no peace for them in Zimbabwe, where did they go to? They went to South Africa. I remember there is a time when people from Mashonaland used to laugh at us, saying we are rushing to South Africa, we are not educated. And at some point, the late former president, Robert Mugabe, said when we go to South Africa, we come back with a bicycle and a radio. What was he trying to say? But today, everyone, you can no longer say Ndebeles are the ones that are rushing to South Africa. Zimbabweans are now what?
Rushing to
South Africa. Why are they rushing to South Africa? If our home Zimbabwe had everything, who would want to live?
No one.
No one would want to leave Zimbabwe. It means there is a problem. I remember there is a time when, is it Thabo Mbeki? He was brought to Zimbabwe to try and see how our challenges are resolved. Those challenges were not resolved. So they have ballooned. Hence, the challenges that are there in South Africa. We are not only checking their medical boxes, employment, education, food. Especially in Matebeleland, we eat food from South Africa. We are currently under drought, but you cannot tell that we are under drought because our children and our relatives working in South Africa, they are sending us food. If you notice, Bulawayo is busy month end, at the end of the month. It's because those children or our relatives would have sent money, we go and collect that money, pay our rents, and keep going. Look at the employment rate in Bulawayo. It's so low. But ask yourself, how are the people surviving? How? It means we are leaving Zimbabwe for greener pastures. For now, South Africa is our greener pasture.
Absolutely.
And whether South Africans like it or not, Zimbabweans will flock there, legally or illegally. And it has always been the case. It's unfortunate now that it's being highly politicized, but it will not stop. And it will be said, no one will come back to Zimbabwe. Who will come back to face hunger? No one.
No one would choose that. All right. So as we round up today's talk, what do you hope to see coming out of the Bulilima elections? Because they are this Saturday, definitely. So what is your hope for the elections, whether for the media, which will be participating, or even the electorate will be participating?
I'm wishing and praying for peaceful elections, and that the outcomes must be announced on time. Everything must be properly or officially done, and all those who registered to vote must go and vote, and no to violence.
Absolutely. Annahstacia, thank you so much for joining us on the Breakfast Club today.
Thank you.
And to you at home, thank you so much for joining us on the Breakfast Club right here on Asake. Like I mentioned, I was joined in studio this morning by Annahstacia Ndlovu, who is a media consultant and a Voice of America correspondent. And remember that this show comes to you every Friday right here on Asake. And please don't forget to like and to follow us on all our social media platforms, right? Site ZW on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, as well as on Twitter. From myself and the crew behind the scenes, goodbye.